Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mark, thank you very much for your flattering and kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and to have 15 minutes to talk to you before lunch. To make sure that you get to your lunch in time, I will try to introduce what we are doing at LGT Venture Philanthropy by focusing on three questions on three topics. The first one, why are we engaging socially? What are our motivations and our objectives? The second one, what is our approach? Why are we calling our approach venture philanthropy? And the third question is addressing the point LGT. What is LGT contributing to our venture philanthropy efforts? Why do we engage socially, and what are our objectives and our motivations? It's relatively simple. I'm firmly convinced that we all have a broader social responsibility and that we all ought to engage and that we can engage in a socially conscious, caring and long-term oriented thinking and doing to hopefully contribute to make this world a slightly better place. I'm also convinced that one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem of this world, is poverty. And hence our objective at LGT Venture Philanthropy is very much centered around fighting poverty, to give more people a fair chance of development, more disadvantaged people, and to give more disadvantaged people a decent sort of living condition. What is our approach, and why do we call it venture philanthropy? Well, if we want to fight poverty, if we want to engage in that area, there's obviously the question, how do we best do that? How do we engage in the most efficient and effective way? Before I've become a banker a couple of years ago, I've worked for slightly over 12 years in the private equity industry. And the experiences in the private equity industry have very much influenced me. And I've become convinced that the tools, concepts, skills that are applied in private equity are very useful because they're actually applicable in a much broader way. Ultimately, the objectives of traditional private equity are very much centered around achieving good financial returns. At LGT Venture Philanthropy, we're coming from a different angle. We are trying to achieve very strong social returns. And while we focus much more in terms of where we are coming from on social returns rather than financial returns, we apply many of the proven concepts and tools and processes from traditional private equity. What do I mean by that? Like in the venture capital industry, we try to find organizations that have interesting organization models, interesting business models that are scalable. Organizations that have competencies that are strong and that we can grow, that can really create a lot of new jobs and spread their competencies quickly around. Different from traditional private equity, all the organizations that we support are active in areas where there's a lot of poverty. And all of the organizations that we support benefit the socially disadvantaged in the areas of poverty in which they're active. Then again, like in traditional private equity, we do a lot of due diligence before we engage with an organization, before we back an organization. We spend a lot of time with its management team. We evaluate the management team, their strengths, their weaknesses. We spend a lot of time analyzing their business model, their approach, their strategy, their plan to scale and grow. And ultimately, we only invest and back an organization if it fits our investment criteria. If the social returns that we hope to achieve are relatively high in comparison to the capital that we invest, and in relationship also to the risks that we perceive in the business plan. And obviously we also only invest if we can establish a joint business plan with the management team of the organization, a roadmap that sets clear objectives, and that and measurable objectives that we can agree upon with the management team. Once we decide to back an organization, we do two things, and they go hand in hand. On one hand, we support the organization, but we also continue to oversee and control it. How do we do that? We support the organization through financial capital, through human capital, and through our networks. The financial capital that we put at work can come in different forms. It can come in the form of equity, the form of debt, but we also give out grants. It's very important to us that we select the right sort of capital, the right form of capital, and that we price the capital very carefully to not distort existing or developing financial markets. If we look at how our capital has been deployed over the last couple of years, a third has been going into equity investments, a third into debt, and the last third in grants. We have found that there are a large number of problems out there that can actually best be addressed through for-profit organization models. And in these companies, in these organizations, we then typically invest through debt or equity. And we are now raising actually a fund, an impact investing fund, that has, besides achieving very strong social returns, also the objective to achieve positive financial returns. While we are still a young organization, we hope and believe that that should be possible. There are obviously areas in which for-profit models are not suitable, and there we invest through grants. Without financial capital, it would be very tough to fight poverty. So financial capital is necessary, but it is by no means sufficient. It needs to be complemented through the right sort of social or human capital, and we therefore try to have a very systematic approach on how we work together with our portfolio organizations. We have, like in the private equity industry, a very structured reporting that is tailored to each of our organizations, but there's some consistency in our approach. We have, obviously, in many of our organizations, a board representation, and we visit them frequently. And in addition to that, and that has actually worked out really, really well, we have started to recruit in close coordination with our portfolio organizations, with experts that commit to work for 1 year with our portfolio organizations. We call these experts ICATs. They can be in any different field. They can be working in finance, in sales, in marketing, project management. It really depends on where we see, together with the management team of our portfolio organizations, the biggest need and the biggest use. And we have set up a sourcing platform to find these experts, and we currently have about over 20 ICATs in the field, roughly a little bit more than one ICAT per portfolio organization that helps these portfolio organizations. And as you can imagine, these ICATs, as we call them, are very useful, not only in terms of the help they can provide to the portfolio organizations, but also as a source of information for us with regards to the progress and development at our portfolio companies. Where do we invest? In what sectors? Well, we are reasonably diversified, both geographically and from a sector point of view. Most of our organizations fall sector-wise into education, healthcare, waste management, agriculture, social housing. I would say those are very important themes for us. From a geographic point of view, we do not invest in Liechtenstein, nor in Switzerland. We really decided to focus on geographic regions where poverty is more significant and broader spread. So we have built up our teams in some countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in India, and in Latin America. Let me now come to the third question which I wanted to address. What is this LGT contributing to this venture philanthropy effort? What is the link to a financial institution here? Well, I guess I'm aware that financial institutions are these days not very much en vogue, but I'm equally convinced that the right link into a financial institution can be a huge benefit for an impact investing or philanthropic organization. So let me give you a little bit of background on LGT. LGT was founded in the 20s of the last century as a small savings and loan bank in Liechtenstein. And shortly after it was founded, in the 30s, during the Great Depression, it already ran into problems. And since the state of Liechtenstein at the time didn't have any money either, by the way, does that ring a bell? The people came and asked the Liechtenstein family if it could help. And the family at the time decided to support the bank, but in exchange for control. And what looked very much like a philanthropy activity at the time has turned out over the years and decades to be a huge win-win for everybody involved. Today, almost 80 years later, LGT is the largest family-controlled bank or financial institution focusing on wealth management or private banking and on asset management. What is our proposition here? We have one core competence at LGT that is most important, and that's our investment management competence. And we offer our investment management competence on one hand to private clients and to institutional clients, mainly pension funds. In addition, LGT still acts as the family office of the Liechtenstein family. And today, we manage overall about $100 billion in assets. How does LGT Venture Philanthropy fit in here? Well, it is one of our more recent investment competences that we have built up, but one which we have all found to be very, very exciting and inspiring. I took over as LGT CEO in 2006, and quite proud about it myself. I founded LGT Venture Philanthropy in 2007, and I think we have been very lucky to hire an excellent team that has grown and achieved quite a bit over the last 5 years. And Oliver Kaios, you might quickly want to raise your hand, Oliver, is one of the partners who is fully engaged for LGT Venture Philanthropy. We have at this point invested in over 20 organizations. We have a team of over 20 investment professionals, not including the ICATs. With them, we will be closer to 50. And we have initially funded the effort and the investments through capital provided by the family, but more recently, we have gone out and also started to raise capital from our private clients and from our institutional clients. And so, in this effort as well, the focus is now really on scaling our competence and our impact, and I hope we can invite some of you to contribute to our efforts, and I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.